Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we're beginning our journey through the third suit of the Minor Arcana, the Suit of Cups. So, in the last two suits, with the Suit of Wands and with the Suit of Swords, we've dealt with the two masculine suits in the Minor Arcana. We've dealt with the two penetrative and active suits as I see them. With the Suit of Cups, we're beginning our journey through the two receptive, the two feminine, and the two passive suits. So, let's begin with the Ace and the now familiar Divine Hand holding out the gift of the cup from the cloud. So, what can we see here? The background is basically, it's a water lily pond. You can see, is it five streams of water flowing out of this cup. And you can see above it, there is a dove holding what looks like a sacred host in its beak, flying down into the cup. So we're in the element of water, more literally in the realm of liquid. So we're talking here about the emotions, the fluidity and the dynamism of the emotions. This is also the suit of connection, the suit of empathy. It's the suit of the heart. So what's the significance of the dove and the host? We've got very, very overt Christian symbolism here. I don't think it's a bad thing because I think it's still a universal symbol, even if you don't follow any Christian beliefs. The dove obviously is a symbol of the Holy Spirit, and the host obviously is a symbol of the communion ceremony. The host wafer being the symbolic body of Christ. And in some communion ceremonies, the host wafer is dipped into the chalice containing the wine, which represents the blood of Christ. So I think what you have here is actually not just a symbol of communion, but a symbol of connection. But that communion in the wider sense is connection. So what we have here in this card is not only is it the pure expression of the suit, the pure expression of the element of water, and thereby the pure expression of the realm of the emotions of the heart. It's also expressing a new beginning in that area. So in the most literal sense, this is the potential to connect and an invitation to connect. So if this appears in a reading, you're stepping into completely new emotional territory. There is the potential for new connections, for deeper connections, for connections with people that you've never actually connected with before. The potential to connect and to share with strangers, the potential to connect and share with people who are perhaps familiar on a superficial sense, but you've not necessarily got to know them on that deep level. The potential for a new intimate relationship, the potential for empathy, the potential, if this appears, it's the potential possibly to understand someone that little bit better. So this is a very, very powerful card. In effect, when we look at the symbol of the dove and the symbol of the divine hand, I think they reinforce each other. The divine providence in connection, maybe. Not all of us believe that there is, a preordained pattern to our lives. But for those of us who do, there is a sense that when these awakenings happen, when these new opportunities arise, It's something that is preordained for us, maybe. So what happens if we do this? If we reverse the card, as always, it's possibly a failure to get off the mark. I also think with this ace upright, if we're dealing with the potential to connect, when this is reversed, it's very much the potential for connections to be severed, or the failure to connect in the first place. Okay, so it's an ace. It's the number one. It's a singularity. So we are purely in the realm of potential when this appears. When we get to the 2, we're talking about potential realised. 2, we're into the realm of duality, one-on-one. If this is an offer, this is the offer accepted. So what you see here is not just an initial connection. It's that interflow of empathy and emotions between two people. In effect, it's a relationship. In the Golden Dawn system, this is literally referred to as the card of love. So this is love as expressed one-on-one. Now that can be any number of things. That can be friendship. It could be what we call need love, the sort of love between parent and child, where basic needs are being met. It could be brotherly or sisterly love. It could be friendship love, as well as being sort of deep romantic and intimate love. All of those things. Basically what we have is love in all its glorious forms as expressed between two individuals. This card also talks about the healing power of love. Let's look at the symbolism. It's another stage card. So this is, again, it's Pamela Coleman Smith distilling the essence of the card by showing it as a sort of miniature drama, a miniature tableau. There is a sort of hilly background with what looks like a cottage nestled in trees. So actually you could look at that and say, well, that is very much maybe a reenactment of domestic bliss on one level. You see a male and a female couple. The female has a laurel crown, whereas the male has a crown of flowers, which I find quite interesting. The laurel crown obviously has connotations of victory, whereas the flower crown, they're red, so are they possibly roses? They could be. Has a connotation of passion. This is very much an equal relationship when you look. Are they toasting each other? Are they exchanging goblets? Possibly. But when you look at what's above them, that's when the real essence of this card comes into play. You see the staff made up of two entwined snakes, the Caduceus, the staff of Hermes. So that is a symbol of healing. Whereas actually above the Caduceus, you see a lion's head with wings. The lion is very much, to me, a symbol of passion. The winged lion, that shows passions taking flight. But then there is this intimate connection with the Caduceus. What I think you see here is the healing power of love, the healing power of passion, the healing power of physical intimacy, maybe. All the different forms of love that we've talked about, whether it be familial love, which actually meets needs and nurtures, friendship love, passionate love, brotherly and sisterly love, they all have a healing power of their own. Ultimately, as human beings, love is one of our greatest and most deep-rooted needs. We need to feel wanted and affirmed. We need to be wanted and affirmed. We need to connect both physically and emotionally. We need to be accepted. We need to be integrated. We don't function very well on our own. We actually require the mirror of others very often to validate us, to help us to understand who we are. That's the healing power of love, all shown in this card, the two. So there we have it. We've gone from the singularity of potential, love being offered, the duality of the two, love being accepted and exchanged. So what happens when we get to the number 3? Quite simply, within the Golden Dawn tradition, you can see here, this is the card of abundance. So I think this works on several levels. What we see in the Waite-Smith deck is a celebration. This reminds me of the Three Graces, and I do wonder whether Pamela Coleman Smith had that in mind when she designed this. You see 3 women. Again, this is a stage card. We have a flat stage. Just a plain blue-black background this time, but the stage is actually filled with an abundance of fruit. The women, one of the women is wearing a garland of vines in her hair. This is a real celebration. Cups being raised aloft in a toast, potentially. So I think the abundance element of this card is actually portrayed very literally. You can see that in the fruit and in the celebration. I think there's other elements here as well, particularly if we look at the numerology. Obviously with the 2, we have a duality, one-on-one, couples. When you get to the 3, the dynamic of the couple or the pair has been opened out and it's become inclusive of others. In effect, the straight line with 2 points has become a triangle with 3 points. So one of the traditional fortune-telling meanings of this card was the celebration of a birth, which is the very literal opening out of the couple into a unit of 3. So it becomes the love shared between parents that then gets channeled also to a child. So obviously that is a very literal depiction of abundance, abundance through childbirth, abundance through reproduction. I think this also for us works in different ways. I also see the abundance of friendship. One-on-one has an intimacy and a secrecy, whereas when that dynamic gets opened out, it becomes more outward looking. The same level of emotional capital has to be spread more thinly. And I think, again, the depiction of friendship is very clear here with the 3 women raising the glasses. What are they toasting? Maybe they're toasting their own friendship, you know. You could also look at this on another level, perhaps a more modern one. I don't think Waite or Smith had this in mind. Obviously here, what you see is a couple. You have exclusivity, you have monogamy. Maybe once one of the more modern ways that we could view this is that you're into the realm of open relationships. When you go into the 3, the exclusivity of the 2 has been opened out to possibly include others with consent. But whichever way you choose to look at this card, it represents an opening out. And I think one of the keys here is that, yes, the emotional energy is potentially spread that little bit more thinly. So obviously with friendship, one-on-one friendship, or with an intimate one-on-one romantic relationship, the focus is only on one person. Here, the 3 is more outward looking and it's more inclusive of the people around you. So if we reverse that card, maybe there is a refusal to open that dynamic Maybe somebody is left out in the cold. One of the things that I learned from a therapist friend is that very often the most difficult interpersonal situations to resolve are situations that involve three, because if there is conflict, invariably that conflict can only break down in one way, aka 2 against 1. So maybe somebody is being left out in the cold. Maybe there is a friendship dynamic that is being disrupted. And on a literal sense, maybe the celebration has been diluted. Maybe, whereas upright, this shows something to celebrate, reversed, it shows something to commiserate. So what was previously a celebration is now a situation that entails grief, which would tie this reverse card very powerfully into the Three of Swords. So a card of extremes, depending on how you're viewing it, whether you're viewing it in its positive aspect or in its darker aspect. So straightforward so far. Until we get to the 4. You might have noticed I'm working with my Wade Smith deck and the usual Golden Dawn deck. I've got 3 other cards on the table here today. 2 from the Thoth deck and 1 from Hermann Heindel's tarot. Mainly to explore the 4 and 5. So let's look at the 4 first. And I'm going to take the Golden Dawn, because the keywords on the Golden Dawn 2 and 3 are actually very straightforward for us in our modern mindset to get to grips with. Less so with the 4. The 4 in the Golden Dawn system was known as the card of blended pleasure, which is a term today sounds somewhat archaic and actually a little bit enigmatic. How do we interpret that? Let's look at the image. The reason I have the Heindel card here is because I think in modernising that term somewhat, I think he kind of hits the nail on the head. The key word on the Heindel card is mixed happiness. So I think that's what we see here. Mixed happiness, mixed blessings, 3 upright cups sat in front of this guy. He's sat under a tree. You can see the divine hand again, actually in a very, very similar way to the ace. Divine hand coming out of the clouds, offering him a 4th cup. Now, if you look at the expression on his face, he looks indifferent. He looks maybe complacent. Actually, he looks potentially sad. The upshot of the card is 3 full cups. Number 4, he's not taking it. So let's have a look at the numerology to start with. We're into the realm of the 4. 4 is it's a number of initial completion. It's the number of squareness. So squareness, containment. Water as an element doesn't contain very well for long. Contained water becomes stagnant. So going back to the Golden Dawn term of blended pleasure, actually what you see here is all the joy of the 3, but then with more added on top. So what do we have here? Is it potentially too much of a good thing? I think it's a good time to look at the Crowley Thoth card at this stage, because actually the key word on this card is luxury. So what we do see very explicitly depicted here is potentially too much of a good thing. It's an overabundance of a good thing. So if you think of the containment of the 4 and the giving of the cup keeps on giving, you've got an overflowing, which is beautifully shown on the image with the water looking almost like light flowing from one cup to the other. So maybe we need to look at these 2 as potentially coming from the same place, but this one showing the positive aspect of this card, whereas this one actually overtly depicts the negative, more dark aspect of the card. So blended pleasure, mixed happiness, and then, you know, the light and the dark. So in its upright, I think what we do have in this Waite-Smith's card with the Four of Cups is a sense of stagnancy, a sense of complacency, an inability to act. So bear in mind that we are, what we said when we were talking about the aces, the active and the passive, what we saw very much in the realm of swords and wands is a tendency to proactivity, which as you get towards the end of the suit can lead to a sense of destruction or oppression. Whereas now we're into the realms of a feminine receptive, potentially more passive element state. You can see this leaning here towards, you know, stagnation, passivity, and inability to act. There is certainly a sense of mixed blessings here. He has everything that could potentially be on offer at this stage, but you know, it's not necessarily always a good thing. So failure to act, failure to receive, maybe a sense of sickness through overindulgence. Maybe, you know, maybe this guy has just drunk too much and can't take any more. So on an emotional level within a relationship, that's, you know, that's fairly easy to interpret in that, you know, your relationship feels a little bit stagnant. It feels as if it's got a little bit stale. Yeah, and new opportunities being passed over. Failure to see the potential of new opportunities emotionally, or just a sense of fatigue with a friendship or relationship. If we reverse it, maybe I think this is one of those instances where the negative aspect of the card is in the upright. If we reverse it, actually, I think what we have is nearer to the Thoth card. You know, maybe there is, when this is reversed, there is a potential to kind of recognize the sheer joy in overabundance and to take hold of it and to realize its potential. So, you know, with this card reversed, I would say that the emotional flow is restored. I think in relationship terms, maybe those dusty cobwebs are being, you know, blown out of the relationship by a fresh breeze. So yeah, luxury. But obviously the other aspect of that, complacency, mixed blessings, mixed happiness. So hopefully now that blended pleasure set of keywords has a little bit, you know, makes a little bit more sense. It may sound archaic, but it straddles these two cards very well, because, you know, it shows that there is a fine dividing line between overindulgence and feeling sick. You know, or, you know, we all did, you know, we all went to parties as a kid, you know, that luxury of all of those jellies and sweets on the table, but maybe, you know, do we feel a little bit sick once we've had one too many? Who knows? So that's the 4. Let's have a look at the 5. 4 as a number of initial perfection. Sits uncomfortably with the fluid motion of water and the emblem of the cup. With the 5, we're into automatically more uncomfortable realms anyway. 5s upset the perfection of the 4. So in the 5 of Cups, the key phrase on the Golden Dawn 5 of Cups is loss in pleasure. So I think Pamela Coleman Smith, you know, we've gone from mixed pleasure to a complete loss in pleasure. These two are actually the first of a trilogy, and you'll see the culmination of that with the 6, which we'll deal with in the next video. But for now, loss in pleasure, very straightforwardly depicted in the Wade Smith card. So you can see this cloaked figure, head bowed. So you can't see the face, but the grief or the regret is very powerfully portrayed. Another stage card. So on the stage, 2 upright cups, 3 toppled cups with their contents spilt. Interestingly, the contents of 2 of these show red wine. The contents of the 3rd one shows something green. So I've never fathomed that out. There is probably Pamela Colman Smith will have known the significance. If you've got any ideas on that one, let me know, because that's an interesting detail that I've only registered recently, even though it's been hiding in plain sight to me. Let's have a look what else there is. The backdrop. A river crossed by a bridge. So the bridge obviously inferring a road. And on the other side of the bridge, we see what looks like a mansion, a castle, or a church. Difficult to say which. But I like to think of this, if I think of the stage as an integral part of the road, he's staring backwards at the 3, he or she are staring backwards at the 3 toppled cups. So obviously there is a loss here, and there is regret and grief over that loss. But he or she needs to turn round, because actually all isn't lost. In front of them are still these 2 upright cups. And also, by implication, it's not just about the cups. In front of this person is the remainder of the road. You know, the river is a powerful symbol of flowing forward. So we don't just have the element of water in the cups, we actually have it in the river as well. There is, you know, what we see is the containment of the Forth has been released. Now, in sweeping forward, some things have been lost, some things have been retained. There are yet, symbolised in the bridge and the building and the journey, there are yet things to be grasped. So even though initially this looks primarily like a card of loss, what we've got to remember is we're only halfway through the sequence. This is not a 10, it's a 5. So there is still a long journey to go. And what this card shows is that there is more to gain in the future than what's been lost in the past. So if we look at this in a reading and applying it to the realm of the emotions, maybe this shows a relationship breakup. You know, maybe it shows the loss of a friendship, the weakening of family ties, maybe through relocation. All of the grief that goes with those things. But what this is showing is, you know, move through the pain and the loss and the grief, and then turn to face the road ahead. Because actually what you'll see is that, yeah, the loss is real, but there is a way forward with a lot more to offer in the future. So if in the upright, and the positive aspect of this card is the way forward, if we reverse it and look at its negative aspect, for me, when this appears, it's the failure to move on from the past. And that keeps us stuck. It stops us from completing the journey. So I think we need to look at the Thoth card at this stage. Again, because this has a different keyword to the Golden Dawn, it's a variation. Loss in pleasure, which we've seen depicted here. A much more straightforward keyword on the Thoth card, disappointment. So again, I would look at the negative aspect of this card being portrayed in the upright in the Thoth. the focus is all on the disappointment. You can see here there isn't a flow from cup to cup anymore, and actually you can see water lilies, water lily flowers with the petals being blown off in the wind, you know, which similarly just shows the loss in a different way within this image. But yeah, the focus in the upright is all on the disappointment, which I would say all the focus on the disappointing aspects is when you just look at the dark aspect of the reversal in the Waite-Smith card. Yeah, so I think if you were reversing the Thoth, then you can see the way forward. So it's one of the interesting things. This is why, I mean, we've seen already there are so many different types of tarot decks. The important thing to remember is that, you know, different artists, different tarot writers have come to these symbols, this combination, this wonderful combination of element, astrology, planetary influence, and you can see that there are lots of subtly different interpretations. If you look closely, ultimately the cards are expressing the same things. In this case, it's a similar concept, but just the reversals are different. The emphasis is in a different place. So there you have it. I hope that's made sense. I've mentioned that the 4 and the 5 of Cups in the Golden Dawn form what I call the trilogy dealing with the concept of pleasure. We'll get to the 6 in our next lesson, which will complete that trilogy. It shows the culmination of this journey within these three cards. So the next lesson will be the remainder of the numbered cards within the suit of cups, and we'll be dealing with the cards 6 through till 10. And I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time.